lower 48 centric, huh?
No.
What about Hawaii?
Prejudice rears its head again.
It snows, but you have to go all the way up on the Big Island.
Yeah, it is not in the top 25. Alaska, number 25, Flint, Michigan. So add that to the brochure.
Well, Flint,
Fortified
Flint's
water,
holding it down. Bad snow.
The reason why
snow in Flint
it is because because of how weird the weather is. It's the lake effect snow. So effectively, it does not stop snowing in the winter until Lake Erie has fully frozen over. It's one of those weird weather phenomenons. So it just dumps. Like when it gets bad in Syracuse, it is the worst snow I've ever seen in my entire life. Granted,
just where like everyone's grounded, can't get anywhere, don't even try type thing.
Like over the car, fully packed in. You are locked down for a week and a half.
So you still just laughing at us from Alaska?
Amos is like, Alaska would be like top of this list. Who made this list?
Well, I'm trying to find it, and the closest number I can come to is 72 inches average snowfall in December in Valdez, Alaska, which is like 12 hours away from me. But I know because they're constantly getting snowed in, so I knew it had to be out there somewhere.
I mean, the state's as big as half the continent. You got a lot of room to work with.
Yeah, we usually get a couple feet a couple times a year here.
I had a roommate when I lived in San Jose who was from Erie, Pennsylvania. Wonderful person, but she was like, wait, like all she ever said was like, it's so cold and snowy. You, Sarah, you wouldn't last a week.
Yeah.
I believe you, Karen.
So
won't even try.
You guys ready for a show?
Yes. Although, Amos, you're right, Valdez, 300 inches of snow annually. That is triple that of Syracuse.
That's some snow. All right.
Wow. Right.
Justin Robert Young, if you would be so kind.
Oh, indeed.
As to read line 3. Here we go. 3, 2.
Thanks to everyone who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, August 16th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Scooter Lane.
From Oakland, California, I'm Justin Robert Young.
And our producers are with us today, Roger Chang and Amos, both in the house. Roger, we missed you.
Thank you. I was missed. Wait, does that make sense?
You missed us.
Yes, that too.
Thank you. You're darn right you missed me. Is kind of, I don't know, I feel like that's fair.
Although, by the way, thank you, I was missed is a memoir turned into an indie darling film, right?
I am looking forward to that. Amazon wants to buy a movie theater. We're going to talk about that. Let's start with a few tech things you should know, except with that music.
Cryptocurrency investor Michael Turpin filed a $224 million lawsuit in a U.S. District Court in Los Angeles Wednesday against AT&T over alleged fraud and gross negligence over theft of tokens from his personal account. Now, Turpin claims that on January 7th, 2018, the tokens were stolen through a digital identity theft of his cell phone account, and that AT&T was his service provider at the time and is liable, at least in some sense. The 3 million stolen tokens were worth $23.8 million. This is again, according to Turpin, who is also seeking $200 million in punitive damages.
This is why I always sue the post office when my check gets lost.
That's right.
Firebase, which Google acquired 4 years ago, is rolling out updates to include in-app messaging customization, notifications, predictions, and Google Analytics. Developers who use Atlassian's Jira will also have integration tools through Firebase. Crashlytics data, which Google acquired from Twitter in 2017, can also be exported to BigQuery to be analyzed. Firebase Cloud Messaging and the Firebase Console's project overview page have gotten design updates as well.
Intel just launched its next wave of NUCs. That stands for Next Unit Computer. They're like Mac Minis for Windows. The new ones have 28-watt 8th Gen Intel CPUs and Iris Plus 655 graphics. Can handle some 4K monitors, multiples of them. 4 USB 3 ports, 1 USB-C and HDMI 2.0A, and a pair of SATA 6 gigabits per second ports. Both versions support M.2 SSDs, but the larger one also supports 2.5-inch SATA SSDs. You can get Core i3, i5, or i7 versions, and they range from $300 to $500. But if you're not familiar, keep in mind, NUCs don't come with RAM, storage, or an operating system.
Ah, Nux.
Hey!
Yeah, waited a whole minute to say that. Canalys reports that global shipments of smart speakers are on the rise in a big way, 187% year over year last quarter, with China accounting for 52% of worldwide growth. Alibaba and Xiaomi accounted for 17.7 and 2.2% respectively. Overall, Google leads the way, with Amazon second.
I think that's actually 12.2%.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Whatever I said, ignore
It's
that. Strike it and reverse it.
Let's talk a little more about Twitter and a story that I covered on Buzz Out Loud in 2009. Developers are mad at Twitter over changes in the API.
Everything old is new again, Tom. Time at the flat circle. Twitter sent a company email stating that the technical and business constraints have led them to shut down legacy APIs. The email said the user streams and site stream APIs were still in a beta stage. After 9 years, Twitterrific noted that the changes mean it will no longer be able to stream tweets, send push notifications, or update the Today view. New tweets and DMs will be delayed by a couple minutes.
Well, and that's the case from Tapbots as well, which makes Tweetbot, which is the Twitter client that I use on my Mac, on my iPhone. I've been using it for years. None of this is going to be debilitating for my Twitter experience. Okay, DMs, I don't get notifications about. Well, I have notifications turned off for the most part anyway. If my timeline is delayed by 1 or 2 minutes, well, if it's a breaking news situation, that might matter, but usually it doesn't. So this is, at first when I read the story, I was like, oh man, I just bought the new Tweetbot. It was $10, the new Mac version of Tweetbot. None of this really changes things, but it's interesting that the third-party developers all say the same thing. Hey, the old API was buggy and sucked, and Twitter just doesn't have a new API that's updated enough for us to take advantage of. So our hands are tied. It's not really Twitter saying goodbye to all these third-party apps, but they're clearly they've devalued the relationship.
Yeah. And for all the stuff that Twitter is in the news for right now, with the fresh hell that they are dealing with, it is amazing that there has been a decade of them not being able to figure out exactly the relationship they want to have with these third-party apps, which really got the platform started from the very beginning.
And I'll add to that. And yet these apps are still there. And they're not like, well, we're folding up and going home. They're like, well, you won't get notifications anymore, but we're still going to keep plugging away at it, because even if it's less than 1%, according to Twitter, enough of you use us that it keeps us going.
Sure. I mean, a lot of these companies, they've been doing this for a long time, almost as long as Twitter itself. So,
10 years. And they pioneered mobile Twitter, which, by the way, we now just know as Twitter.
Right. All right, let's move on to Melbourne, Australia, where a teenager reportedly broke into Apple's secure computer systems and is now facing criminal charges after Apple turned him into the FBI. The Children's Court, this is in Australia, heard on Thursday that this teenager had downloaded 90 gigabytes of secure files and accessed customer accounts. A raid on his family home last year uncovered a barrage of hacking files and instructions, all saved in a folder titled Hacky Hack Hack.
He also did it because he's a fan. I love Apple so much, I'm going to hack into them.
Right.
It is. I mean, it is the kind of story that at one time would have ended, with the Cinderella, and then Apple hired him, right? I don't know that's where they're going to go these days. Apple doesn't have that kind of sense of humor. Maybe they never did, but I mean, this obviously is a talented individual. I don't think they were trying to be malicious, but also you can't expect to get away with that if you get caught.
We're in a weird situation, and it was funny. I was talking to the friend of the show, Darren Kitchen of Hack 5, earlier this week, and we were talking about the difference in hacking. That there is the era of, I'm going to I'm fascinated with how my toaster works, and that turns into figuring out how to hack a database, and then you do some little thing that you think is just a clever patch around to do something interesting, and then it turns into something illegal. That's kind of going away, and what's going to replace it are like formal trainings for these kind of things. And I think this is another changing element of what we understand to be InfoSec, that now, sure, this kid is smart, and hopefully there's some kind of, you can throw the book at the kid for doing something like this, but the attitude around this is getting more corporate espionage, or even if we an idea that we can wrap our head around a little bit more, like shoplifting, than it is, oh, look, Billy was able to make a clock out of a potato and Apple.
And for my science project, I hacked 90 gigabytes of secure files from Apple. Here they are. I almost feel like this is a rare story. We're full of rare stories today. In fact, maybe it's just me, but I feel like way more things talked about at CES this year are actually shipping multiple times this month. We've said, remember that thing we talked about at CES? Well, you can get it now. When does that happen? Anyway, Johnson & Johnson's Glass thermostat, GLAS, the one with Cortana built in, the one that I think many of us, maybe myself included, sort of like, yeah, we'll see if that ever ships. You can pre-order it right now in the US for $319. Now that does make it, that does make it the most expensive smart thermostat on the market, beating out the Echo B4 by $70. But for that money, you not only get Cortana built in, but supposedly compatibility with Amazon and Google Assistant as well.
Well, and forgive me for being naive about what a thermostat does besides its primary function. But that is a very expensive thermostat, even if it's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Echo B4 is $249. The Nests are usually below $200. So yeah, it's pricey, but you can yell across the room, Cortana, what temperature is it outside?
Well, but I would suspect that hopefully the reason why you're paying $300 for it is that it does more of the cool thermostat-y stuff that I don't have a smart thermostat, so I don't know what the pain points are.
I mean, the cool thermostat-y stuff to me is the stuff that you get in all of them, which is you can set it from an app even when you're not at home. You can program it to know when you're at home and when you're not to help you save money. And you can generally just tell it like, hey, pick the optimal cooling for me so that I feel comfortable and I'm not throwing dollars out the window. And you know what? The other one that my Nest does that I love is it reminds me to change the filter in my furnace.
So I guess maybe, hopefully, I don't know, if you're paying $100 extra for it, I hope it wouldn't just be for the voice assistant.
It's from the multiple voice assistants and the amazing design. I mean, it is definitely the prettiest smart thermostat I've seen.
Well, then that counts for something.
When we were at CES, DTNS, Roger and Tom and I, Justin, I don't think you were there this year. But one of the things that we all sort of took away from it is like, wow, Google Assistant is really integrated into a lot of these upcoming products, right? Some of them either will or will never make market, but you heard about Google Assistant quite a bit. It's not surprising that Cortana and of course Amazon's Assistant as well would be part of this, but yeah, there were a lot of things that were announced to be coming at CES that sounded great. And you're right, Tom. A lot of those have come to fruition. But again, I think it's a skill that's, integrated into a speaker that already existed, maybe more than, some vaporware hardware than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Police in Washington State made an arrest in a fatal hit and run case after part of a car headlight originally posted to Twitter was identified by a Reddit user. A photograph was shared in the subreddit, "What is this thing?" which is dedicated to identifying obscure objects, plants, and animals. That led to the following line being written on the official BBC website. Quote, "Jeff, who goes by the username /u/Jeff's Nuts, responded to the post identifying the black piece of metal as a section of a, quote, Chevy Silverado headlamp bezel," end quote. Jeff used to be a Maryland State Vehicle Inspector. On August 14th, Washington State Police Trooper Joanna Baptiste posted to Twitter that the detectives made an arrest after, quote, Reddit users identified a photographed broken car part. We did it, Reddit.
God love us all.
I mean, in a world where Reddit usually means trolls or falsely accusing bombing suspects to a lot of people, where social media is generally assumed to be a place of fake news, I'm not saying this is a trend or that it refutes all of those statements. All I'm saying is it's nice to see this happening. This is the power of Reddit and the internet. This is what it should be used for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nonsense on Reddit, but we have seen this before on Reddit, where it's like the Redditors of whatever subreddit band together and like solve some mystery that the rest of us can't figure out, or, you know, authorities that, are on the case can't figure out. So kudos to Jeff. I'm not totally sure how he did this, but again, he actually has history figuring out these types of things. So, he's not necessarily someone who is just like, oh, right. I know what piece of that car is, because it doesn't look like much. If you see the photo, it's like, I don't know, it just looks like a piece of plastic or, you know.
He recognized where he used to put his screwdriver when inspecting headlamps and adjusting them, which was part of his job, and was like, hey, I think I recognize that one. I bet it's, and I think he had 2 or 3 guesses, and then he narrowed it down and he was right. Like, this is craftsmanship at work. This is a skill.
Oh, okay.
Right? This is human. This is the human ability to learn and recognize and help out.
Yes. And let me just say that Reddit there's an old Patton Oswalt routine about when he first got a TiVo and how he's like, oh, this is great. It'll record things that I like. But those first few weeks are like, he watches one Western movie and then the next day he has 19 hours of horse footage. And he's like, I don't want that, TiVo. No, too aggressive. Reddit is imperfect. Oftentimes when they are wrong, it is in big situations. But certainly the power of the hive mind is important and impressive when leveraged in the right capacity.
And listen, man, if Jeff's nuts, he's my kind of crazy.
Jeff, we salute you. Moving on to Sony, which announced that it has sold 3 million PlayStation VR headsets as of the end of last month. Now, it's quite a bit more than at the end of 2017 when Sony said it had sold 2 million units, meaning, okay, it sold another 1 million units in the last 8 months. Sony shipped 21.9 million PSVR games and experiences. The PSVR has 340 games that are now available. And Sony says of those games, the best-selling VR game to date is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim VR, which came in a bundle. So that probably has something to do with it at least. Followed by PlayStation VR Worlds, Rec Room, and Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
So compare that to 70.6 million PS4s that have been sold in total.
That's a lot. That's a high percentage of people with PlayStation 4s buying a PSVR. I think this speaks to the idea that people don't want to have to set up a thing. And if you have a high-end gaming PC, the Oculus or the HTC Vive aren't as big of a jump. And a lot of people do, but you still have to install the right stuff. And whereas the PlayStation VR, it's like, oh, well, I have a PlayStation, I plug this thing in and I play it. Even if it's really not that much easier, which I can say it really isn't. There's a lot of wires involved in the PSVR. The concept is I already have one thing, I just need another thing. Whereas HTC and Oculus feel a little more DIY, which some people may like. I think that's why Oculus Go is easier than the Gear VR, because I don't have to put a thing in it. And I wonder also see big sales for the Oculus Go because of that appeal, that mental capacity appeal.
I love VR. I think it's still unfortunately a very emerging market, which is frustrating for somebody that's had a system for a little bit, because I really want better, cooler, more immersive games and more money to go into their development. But certainly this is a good step forward to it. It shows you that there still is an interest. No matter how much we want to assign the narrative that this stock is up or down, people still want to experience their games differently.
Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. So we heard a story a while back that Netflix was flirting around with buying Landmark Theaters. Landmark Theaters owns about 50 theater locations in 27 markets. They're in big cities like New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, San Francisco. They generally focus on artsy stuff, the independent films. They will carry mainstream films, but they sort of spin that way. They have lounges and coffee shops and stuff in their locations. And they market themselves towards cinephiles, basically. They're owned by Wagner Cuban. That's Mark Cuban and Todd Wagner. And those two, Mark Cuban has avowedly said, yeah, I'm looking to sell Landmark Theaters, but, we're not in a hurry. So the latest rumor is that Amazon is in the running to buy Landmark Theaters. That would give them the chain. And there's a lot of things we're going to talk about regarding like Amazon and their different approach to online movies. Manchester by the Sea, for instance, had a regular 90-day run in theaters before it went to Prime Video, but it was an Amazon production. But the one part of this that I hadn't really considered earlier today when we were talking about it on your show, Jerry, there was a 1948 Supreme Court case called U.S. versus Paramount Pictures, often referred to as the Paramount Decree, that decided that movie production and exhibition companies, in other words, the studios and the theaters, had to be separated. This is why you see all these old Fox theaters, but they're not actually owned by Fox.
Yeah.
Because in 1948, the courts said, yeah, you can't do that anymore. The decision was over the legality of a federal consent decree declaiming certain practices, which were found to violate antitrust. Now, some of them were about block buying, the ability to say, well, if you take this movie, you have to take that. The studios are currently prevented from doing that sort of thing. On August 2nd, the Justice Department said it's considering abandoning the consent decree since business conditions are much different than they were in the 1940s. So there's two ways Amazon could go into this. There are certain ways you can maneuver around the decree and have production facilities and own theaters. I don't pretend to understand all the nooks and crannies, but for instance, Mark Cuban, he owns Landmark Theaters, but he also owns HDNet, which makes movies, but I guess they don't run in the theaters. So I don't know how that works, but it would seem to me that Amazon wanting to release movies into theaters as an Amazon studio means that they would be in violation of this decree unless the Justice Department decides to roll it back.
Which I would guess that they don't make this move unless, in the tremendous amount of money that they spend on lobbying, that they have some idea that this is, the temperature is right for such a move. Obviously, I mean, this court case in 1948 was at the height of the studio system. There were a lot of questions about contracts and ownership of actors and actresses, not to mention the intellectual property and union busting that kind of went on in Hollywood at the time. So things are changing. The idea of a brick and mortar place to go see entertainment is not the slam dunk destination that it once was. We're probably very close to seeing a lot of different changes and mergers for these kinds of theaters. I'm very curious to see what Amazon sees in it and where they see it integrating. This is now the brick age of Amazon. It's
the Whole Foods of Amazon's movie strategy.
Right. Remember way back in the day when Whole Foods, first came on, whatever scene I was on, it was like, it's like the hippy dippy grocery store. And now it's a huge chain and Amazon bought it. And yeah, I still shop there. So if you think about Landmark in the same way, it's like, okay, well, Amazon has all these original movies and TV shows, and who even knows what this is all going to look like. Let's just say that Amazon ends up buying Landmark. Then you can have red carpet events at your Landmark theaters showcasing your new series or your new movie. That's sort of that, again, kind of indie. It's still in the same realm that Landmark was known for. So, folks like me who want to go to the movies would go there, and Amazon just happens to own it. It sounds complicated, but as a theater goer, it sounds great for Amazon.
Well, subscription plans are all the rage these days. Imagine if your Prime subscription included a certain amount of movies at Landmark theaters every month.
Poor Movie Pass.
Yeah,
I mean, look, no,
almost soon rest in peace.
It might be. I mean, like that might be an element here that they want to bundle a movie into Prime, and I wouldn't doubt it. That would fit in it, but that's like To me, that's what's most interesting about this is the question of where does Amazon see this going? Because this is not just about Landmark and it's not just about Whole Foods. This is about them saying, okay, we've got obviously all the money in the world. We are now looking to cement the next, if Amazon before was like, oh, okay, let's just keep reinvesting in AWS, keep reinvesting in our logistics, keep reinvesting in how we get people into the store. That has made them the gigantic company that they are. What seems to be happening now is like, okay, well, there's only so much we're going to be able to do that. And people are going to copy what we're doing and they will get better and better on the web. What can we do with this money now that a lot of these companies that aren't necessarily insolvent, right, but are just facing rockier roads ahead, how can we fold that in now? And that, to me, is fascinating to see what their grand plan is with these brick and mortar establishments.
Well, and they also can use it as a way to learn more about the business, which can help them get their own movies into other theaters. Landmark is one of the few chains that will show a Netflix movie in theater. The way Netflix gets Oscar consideration, gets award consideration, is it finds theaters that are willing to do it. And Landmark doesn't always, but has shown Netflix movies before. I think Beast of No Nation was shown in Landmark theaters. It would be interesting to see if that continues. Could Amazon use that as some kind of leverage with Netflix to say, okay, well, we'll show your day and date releases in our Amazon-owned Landmark theaters, but you have to do X for us. And I don't know what that would be.
I would suspect that specifically if this is still a touch and go legal issue, that there would probably be some assurances that they're going to play fair if this is a rule that they are going to change.
Well, but they could very easily block Netflix movies by pointing to AMC and Cinemark and Regal and saying they don't show Netflix movies either. That's industry standard.
Let's also, these theaters are, at least the ones here, I'm looking here in the Bay Area, but I would assume that these theaters were initially family owned that were then purchased by Landmark, that they are a company that has taken smaller.
I know that that's the case in a couple. I'm not sure how many of the 50.
I don't know how many new ones they've built, but a lot of these are, the one closest to me is in Piedmont. It's showing 8th Grade, 3 Identical Strangers, and the Mr. Rogers doc, right? So 2 documentaries and a hot indie movie. I don't know. And this is why I think Landmark has rocky roads ahead, is forget, just the larger trends of people not wanting to go to movies. But we're in an era now where every AMC, every Regal is playing those 3 movies. There's smaller and smaller is the niche market that you either can't see on VOD, you can't wait 2 seconds to see it on Netflix or Amazon or whatever, and you can't see it at one of these massive 24 to 25 screen multiplexes.
Not to force you into a disclosure, but what if this becomes an esports venue as well?
If it becomes
although the closest Landmark to me is showing the new Mission Impossible movie, showing Black Klansman, the new Spike Lee movie. So it's most of everything on the roster is kind of indie, and most of them I haven't heard of. But some of these are blockbuster movies.
Well, but also this is how weird our current movie situation is like you just said, Black Klansman, the Spike Lee movie about a undercover Ku Klux Klan operation, which would, through most of my adult life, be the indie movie. It would be the movie that would headline the indie theater, and now that's a blockbuster. That's a big ticket, number 1 movie of the week kind of thing.
I know we want to move on, but I just got to reemphasize, this is going to be, if Amazon does this, it's going to be used for more than just movies. They're going to make this an event entertainment space.
Amazon lockers at your local Landmark.
Yes.
What?
Filled with lockers.
Something I would probably use. Not even kidding.
I don't doubt that. And I think that there is, again, we talk about changing times. I wouldn't be shocked if that's something that a lot of these theaters have to look at.
Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on other stories at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Want to hang out on Facebook? Great. Facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow is where we hang out there as well.
Oh, Sarah, is that the mailbag?
Oh, it is, Tom. Funny that you saw that. Gabriel said, I know you talk a lot about tech and accessibility, especially when it comes to the disabled pretty often. Gabriel, so glad that you feel that way because we definitely try to cover that. I was at a friend's house and his roommate was using Amazon's Assistant. He's blind. I, for one, am kind of spooked about the whole concept of these assistants. But I thought it was really cool to see somebody who does not see using it and thought it was the perfect use case. Tech put to an excellent and appropriate use. Just my thought. Your show rocks. I listen as often as I can. Take care and keep on podcasting.
Thank you, Gabriel. Appreciate the email.
Very much so. Thank you also to Justin Robert Young for being with us this fine Thursday. Justin, what has been going on besides, politics?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, you can, as I plugged many times on this show, get my free political newsletter at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. 5 days a week, 5 stories a day, mostly gifts, sometimes hot takes. I don't know where most of the gifts have been from this week. They've been from a lot of Simpsons gifts this week, actually. But I also want to point out that many of you supported my game on Kickstarter, Action News. I still don't have my copy of it, but I do have my neighbor Brett's copy, which I am holding up right now for our video listeners. It is a gorgeous box, if I do say so myself, and it is available to you right now. ActionNewsGame.com is where you go to get it. But
I love that font, that whole thing, the graphics.
It's got a little reflective foil stamp on the box there. I think it's a pretty smart looking box. But I'm so proud of it. Thank you to everybody who kickstarted it. If you did kickstart it and you haven't gotten your copy yet, please check your email. There's an email in there that you just have to confirm your address, and it ships directly from our fulfillment center. You can get it ASAP. ActionNewsGame.com.
Roland OG.
Tom's got the beta pack that we sent out from.
I was wondering where you went. I'm like, Tom, is he
Don't
hurt?
let Tommy leave, Sarah. Don't call attention to it. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. There was no magic. Don't look behind the curtain. Actually, folks, what you should do, though, is go to patreon.com/DTNS, support the show, but also read Sarah's awesome weekly column. In fact, it was so awesome that someone asked if we could make it public for everyone so they could share it around, because it's about SMS etiquette.
Yeah, it's me complaining about the world. I'm great at that. So if you guys want more every 3 weeks, please look forward to that column from me.
Yeah, and that column, you'll definitely get it first, and usually it's exclusive for the associate producer level of backers at patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. If you have an idea for a future column, we'd love to hear it, or any feedback in general. Keep it coming. You guys have been so good about this lately, so really, really appreciate all the feedback, questions, comments, ideas. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Tomorrow is Friday, and we're going to have Shannon Morse. Yay. We'll talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Great.
Frosted Flakes, good.
They're great. Got a little dust on my Action News there.
We're talking about cereal. Justin, what's your favorite cereal?
My favorite cereal is probably Honey Nut Cheerios.
Okay. Hey, keeping it part of the legacy. The legacy cereal.
I was not allowed to have very sugary cereals as a boy, so I don't have a tremendous affection for Lucky Charms or
Apple Jacks.
Perhaps. And I really as sugary as it got was Frosted Mini Wheats.
What?
And even then it's like,
that's pretty sugary, and they weren't very good.
No, and it's like, yes, it was sugary at the cost of eating shards of glass that would tear up the roof of your mouth.
I will say that at some point they really stopped pushing hard on sugary breakfast cereals. Like that there are noticeably fewer selections of like there's your cocoa round
Really?
cereal.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they still
it's-
they still sell the General Mills and Kellogg's versions, but
Well, I think it's not like, oh, we can't buy cookies anymore, but it's a little bit more of like cereal may not be the place to, add as much sugar as possible. But yeah, Justin, I'm with you that I didn't have access to a lot of the stuff. I was very fascinated as a kid.
Yeah.
But there were even like certain cereals where I'm like, Trix are like not good. What is this?
I also kind of feel I will say that Honey Nut Cheerios milk might be the best byproduct because it has the right amount of sweet and the honey mixes really, really well with the milk. So I think if you're just talking about, if we're just to rank the milk byproduct after a bowl of cereal,
it's those couple gulps at the end that really set it over the edge.
Yeah, to me, that's probably 50% of cereal.
Right. It's true. What does the milk taste like? And are you good enough at eating enough cereal so there's a little milk left over?
Yeah. I don't put milk on cereal.
What? What do you mean?
I don't. I just eat cereal dry.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Oh.
Apple Jacks in the bowl.
Hold on.
No, I don't. I reject this.
So wait, like your entire life? Your mom would just pour you a dry ass bowl of cereal, and you'd put your.
I'd pour it myself.
Tom, I mean, you had lots of chances to mention this yesterday, but you never did.
Well, it never really came up. The whole milk part of the discussion never
But
arose.
that's what cereal is.
No, it's not.
I think cereal without milk is something else entirely. That's just a snack.
I'm with Tom. Like, I'm cool with cereal as a snack being dry. I don't think if you're like you just like I can see just a handful of cereal. What I can't see is that being like the breakfast. Like, I'm gonna have my first meal of the day is just a bowl of dry cereal.
Very, very dehydrating, Tom.
I didn't like the cereal getting soggy.
Well, that's why you have to eat it really fast.
I didn't like to have to eat fast.
It makes it a fun game.
I didn't like a lot of condiments on food growing up either. So I didn't like.
Yeah.
I didn't put a lot of mustard.
So, did you like if there were like 3 things on a plate you didn't want them to touch?
No, it was not like that. I didn't mind if stuff touched. I didn't intentionally mix it or anything, but yeah, I wasn't that obsessive. I just didn't like the complication. I was just like, I just want to taste the cereal. I like the taste of the cereal. I don't want the milk getting in the way.
Wait, but the milk is part of when they formulate it.
Listen, I'm not trying to say you should do it this way. All right.
Listen, I'll give you a healthy breakfast.
I enjoyed. Don't tell me I'm wrong.
Take
There's no right or wrong. We're just taken aback.
There's no right or wrong except for Tom's wrong.
Do they still make Wheaties? If they do, take a box of Wheaties.
I think they do make Wheaties. Yeah, it's the Olympic. Whoever wins like the gymnastics is always on the.
My dad would used to buy that crap and force me to eat it, but I found a way. I would sneak out and occasionally buy those little small cartons of chocolate milk, and I would use that instead of regular milk, so I could at least get some sweetness in it. I'm
not saying I never ever. By the way, what are we calling this show?
We are. I like one, but I'm not sure if I can say it.
Oh, it's about solving a crime?
Yes.
No. Amazon pre-orders theaters.
Yep.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Or Amazon's Landmark. I like that one.
Ooh, but it's not Amazon's Landmark just yet.
Yeah. They didn't buy it yet.
Save that one for when they buy it.
All right. Hey, Tom. So you got a big, dry dust bowl of cereal.
Wow. This is
you go spoon, or are you just doing hand over fist?
Spoon. I don't really even eat cereal. I don't know when the last time I actually had cereal was, but when I was a kid, I would go spoon. I had a red bowl, pour my Cocoa Pebbles in, and then eat them with a spoon.
A Red Bull?
A red bowl.
A red bowl. God, I was like,
the color red.
First of all, like
you don't like sugar.
This was long before
Red Bull
Red
in
Bull,
Greenville
existed.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, a Red Bull. Everything about this is very confusing.
And some vodka,
just to make it fun. Yeah. Why do you need milk? You've got all the.
No, did I not explain I was drinking Red Bulls and vodka before first grade?
So okay. So I was while we were talking about this, I'm thinking like, is there any cereal that I would just eat dry and it would be fine? Chex Mix. That started as a cereal, right?
Well,
but it
Chex
became
is
sort of
cereal.
a snack item.
Yeah, no,
Chex
Chex.
The
But
mix
not
is
mix.
taking the cereal and
Oh, the mix was not part of the original cereal.
Yeah,
I see. I always liked Chex.
And
Had
also
a nice crunch.
Chex Mix is savory, and Chex
Oh, that's
like
oh, I see.
right.
Well,
barely.
there was like a cinnamon.
By the way,
type thing.
Meg Merritt, my older sister, would constantly berate me for not putting milk on my cereal.
I don't have a problem.
This was a morning ritual of why don't you put milk on your cereal? That's disgusting.
I don't have a problem with the dry cereal. I do think the fact that you used a spoon to eat it is
It's a little
Savage,
sus.
Justin.
Yeah,
Up too far.
a little sus.
You gotta eat your cereal with a utensil. I'm not
Not a savage.
There are rules. Exactly, Roger.
But
So
it changed into a snack.
It's not a snack. It's my breakfast.
But you have
Perhaps not prepared the way you.
I don't think it's a breakfast anymore, Tom. You were just eating a snack
we're just eating potato chips for breakfast.
Stop all. You're all
with a spoon like a savage. Yeah. Tom, who
It really
eats
is giving me
potato chips for breakfast?
flashbacks of, and Meg would probably be like, I maybe said that once. I didn't say it every morning.
I don't know. I don't know what the weirdest thing
And
the
I
rest
did
of you
have-
ate
I
for
did
breakfast,
have
but I
milk
ate
on it.
such weird things for breakfast. So like,
Oh, really?
this actually, well, yeah. I mean,
It was pretty much cereal for us Monday through Friday, and then the weekend, Dad would make bacon and eggs. That
my mother, and I, love you, Mom. You kept me from being an adult until I absolutely had to. She made me breakfast every morning. I mean, until like I went to college. It was
Oh,
like,
man.
and she would go to work before I was kind of like done getting ready half the time, but the breakfast would be sitting there. That what it is. But whatever she gave me is what I would eat. It wasn't like, what do you want? It's whatever
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
getting.
it's like
So
I made it.
sometimes that would be a grapefruit. It was
Mhm.
already cut for me. Sometimes it would be top ramen. Sometimes it would be a quesadilla. And that's about it.
Yeah, my parents stopped cooking anything as soon as I hit
Yeah.
the junior high. Then it
Yeah.
was like I learned how to make scrambled eggs. I would toast bread, put butter on it, eat toast and eggs.
Yeah. I mean, I
Well, yeah, I don't
probably
think my
didn't
parents
actually
ever-
like heat up anything on a stove until I left home.
They never made me breakfast other than like setting
Yeah.
the box out.
And the vitamins would always be next to the
oh yeah, the Flintstones.
you
We
know?
always had Flintstones. Thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew were those. I actually ate one too many, and they got a runny, bloody nose.
Why? Because your blood was too thin or something?
His parents
Ah,
punched
maybe
him.
too much
Are
iron.
you
I don't know.
snorting your vitamins? Don't do that.
No, I ate a couple of Freds and maybe 2 Barneys, like 5. Instead of just
And
the
then,
one. you're
and then his
supposed to eat.
sister was like, "You ate all the Barties." Back, and he got a bloody nose.
I actually never had like the cool, like I had to have like it was like big people vitamins. Fluoride, so that you don't get cavities. There was always a fluoride, vitamin C.
Wait, they
and then,
gave you
like, a
fluoride
multi.
pills?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I never had a cavity. So
Oh,
My dad thought that was from the Chicoms, so he didn't.
Fluoride is usually used as a topical agent, which is why it's in toothpaste and mouthwash.
well, a friend of mine the other day was like, mentioned something about some great toothpaste. And he's like, and it doesn't have fluoride. And I'm like, I like fluoride.
Like,
why I
anything
don't have
that actually keeps your
cavities.
teeth healthy. Yeah,
Yeah,
that-
I'm just trying to
know.
figure out how the fluoride works when it goes in your body.
Well, who
trace amounts.
cares?
It's very, very
Who
small.
cares? It's fine.
It's fine. I'm fine, Roger.
But I do remember kids who didn't take fluoride pills. I don't know why I did. I guess that's kind of weird. But
I never
you
did
know, the
fluoride
rest of them were
pills.
always having. Yeah, they were vitamins.
We did fluoride rinse.
Okay, this was a vitamin that you would
Huh.
take every morning.
Interesting.
That I don't know. I guess the dentist prescribed or whatever. But like all my friends who didn't take fluoride always had cavities, and I was like, just take fluoride, and then you never
maybe.
have to like be afraid of the dentist.
And brush your teeth, floss.
And that
Don't eat
too.
too much junk.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Don't eat, honey bunches of oats.
well, as soon as I
ate
discovered,
sugary cereals every morning, and I never had a cavity as a kid.
well, aren't you special?
I'm just saying, like,
some people just have better teeth than others. That's true.
I had hard enamel. I always had gum problems, but not enamel.
Well, as you get older, your adult teeth, your permanent teeth, are generally have harder enamel than your baby teeth. Tend to be a little more.
But there are also, I mean, there are adults that I know who have great dental hygiene, beautiful teeth, and they're always getting root canals. Where it's like they're doing everything right. They're doing everything that they can do correctly, but they're still, they have these teeth problems where I'm like, I don't even know what a root canal is. It sounds terrible though.
It is. It's terrible.
Yeah, maybe some people just like root canals.
Maybe, yeah, they're just choosing it.
I had a root canal probably about 3 years ago, and it really wasn't all that bad. It was just kind of like every surgery. Yeah.
Give me the drugs.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Oh, I love them root canal.
All this talk about teeth reminds me.
It was all local. Like they just numbed up my face and then drilled.
Yeah.
That was right.
I guess it's probably more of it's the sound and the time spent, right? So it's like, sure, if you're numb and you're not in pain, you're not in pain.
No, it still hurts. It still hurts.
It does.
Especially if they have to get to your pulp of your teeth, which is still connected to a nerve.
I don't know. It didn't really hurt for me. I don't know when the last time you had a root canal was, but I feel like dental technology and the ability
has gotten better. Yeah.
I find the one thing I hate about modern dental technology is the ultrasonic pick when they clean your teeth.
Why? Oh,
because it vibrates through my jaw and it's a high-pitched sound in my eardrum.
I like it because it feels like it's cleaning things extra hard.
I mean, I don't mind the cleaning. I just hear it through my jaw.
You don't. It's like nails on a
my dental hygienist asked me, she's like, does this bother you? And I was like, no, it's fine. She's like, it does bother some people, so I always ask. And she won't use it if it's really bothersome.
I mean, I don't mind they use it, but there's like you can't put earplugs in because it's traveling through your skull, the noise.
Yeah, it's just one of those. Yeah, it's that.
It's nails
sensation.
On the chalkboard.
Yeah,
I just cannot deal with it.
Well, when I had to have a wisdom tooth pulled out not that long ago, because I had one that was like still in my head after getting them taken out years ago, they numbed me. I didn't feel anything, but I heard the ripping out of the, yeah. And it was like halfway through it, I'm like, I can't do this, I can't. And she was like, Sarah, I mean, we're halfway done. Like, please just let us finish. It was like really simple. We were taking it out. But it was the sound of it that was awful. Even though I felt nothing. And
now, folks,
it wasn't a big deal.
We don't really mean to do it this way, but if you want non-pain dental talk, stick around, patrons, for the audio.
That's right, yeah.
And we'll continue. Video, folks, go take an ibuprofen. We'll see you tomorrow.